In a sport with no shortage of interesting characters, Chris Eubank stands as one of the most intriguing and colorful talents the sport of boxing has ever seen. Thanks to a unique fighting style, an award-winning fashion sense, and a silver-tongued upper-class flair. While some thought Eubank was a pretender, his opponents would quickly find out that simply the best was more than just a nickname. Hey everyone, it's David here. Before we get started, I just wanted to chime in real quick and personally introduce you to the new production team. Our producer is a longtime subscriber named Liam, our new editor Christian, and our scriptwriter and voiceover artist is someone I've been working with on this channel a long time, Coby McKinley. So say hi, you're in great hands with these guys, and let's get to it.
Hello there, my name is Coby, and I've been writing for The Modern Martial Artist since early 2022, and I am beyond excited to get started with this new team. Combat sports are the only ones I care about, and that's been the case for nearly 20 years. Even though I don't train as much as I used to, my love for learning about martial arts, studying tape, and exploring why things work hasn't waned a bit. Working on the channel is an absolute joy, and I really appreciate everyone who tunes in.
Hey guys, I'm producer Liam, and I'm so excited to be joining the team in the producer capacity. I have over a decade of experience running and operating YouTube channels, and I've been a fan of David's channel for years. At heart, I'm a huge YouTube fan, but more importantly, I'm a huge fight nerd fan, and I can't wait to bring you guys some amazing content that I've personally been dying to see on the page.
Hey everyone, my name is Christian, and I'm excited to officially introduce myself as the new video editor for The Modern Martial Artist. I've recently joined the team to help continue David's legacy in maintaining the creativity and storytelling power of the content you already love. I've been working in the creative space for a number of years as a video editor, and I'm really excited to be a part of this project. Being a fight fan since I was young, this job is a dream come true for me, and I hope to maintain and add on to everything you already love about the modern martial artist. Now, let's get back into the video. Hope you guys enjoy.
Born in South London, Eubank found boxing in his later teen years while living with his mother in New York. He quickly took to the sport and spent every moment he could at the local gym, one known for intense sparring and little hand-holding early on in an effort to weed out the pretenders. Eubank pulled through and spent the first 10 years of his boxing career undefeated, turning years of toil into some of the most memorable moments in British boxing history. He defended the WBO middleweight and super middleweight titles a combined 17 times and faced incredible opposition like Ben, Malinga, Collens, and eventually even Calzaghe. Eubank viewed boxing like a trade and a way of life, opting to train not because he wanted to, but because it was the right thing to do. Boxing was the life he chose, and he would honor that path through hard practices, paying his dues, and behaving like a role model whenever he could. Though his fantastic turns of phrase and royal style were endearing to some, his opponents absolutely hated it. Because Eubank had a way of turning polite speech into sharp barbs, seeming to almost dismiss his opponents as just another obstacle to reach his goals.
He's the real hype. I come up the hard way. I didn't have Frank
prove myself, boy.
You had your time. Let's have some parliamentary procedure here, all right? Yeah.
The more an opponent wanted to get to Eubank, the worse it was going to get. Eubank was an ultra-durable and courageous boxer-puncher who was willing to go to war if the opponent dragged him there. But Chris Eubank was no brawl. The core of his game relied on technical boxing, and it hinged on two things: gaining respect and range control. This gentleman pugilist utilized crushing counters and footwork to maintain space and turn potential slugfests into boxing contests. And once the opponent was sucked into his world, Eubank would turn the tables and go on the offense, drawing counters and diving forward to punish missed punches. So, let's take a look at Eubank's game in detail and learn how this well-mannered tactician turned back the opposition with brutal precision. Just like every boxing match ever, Eubanks' fights started from the outside, and that's exactly where he wanted it to stay, at least early. His outside tactics were tailored to encourage his opponents to try to find him, and then punish them as they tried. This was a vicious cycle that, if it worked, would get the opponent to slip into boxing instead of headhunting. Eubank had incredible footwork and exceptionally fast hands, allowing him to quickly tag the opponent and exit as they swatted at air. His jab was possibly his most potent weapon in the general sense, but it was especially sharp from the outside. Plus, the way he could nail the opponent and slip away must have been super frustrating. He also let loose with straight attacks to the gut. While they can certainly sap the opponent of energy over time, they also reinforce the range by effectively pushing the opponent back or sticking them in place. Eubank also had an absolutely lethal overhand right that ended multiple fights before the final bell. The last weapon from this range that I'll mention is a lunging right hand. While it's sometimes connected, Eubank would often use it as an opportunity to off-balance the opponent. Combined with these foundational attacks, Eubank also utilized world-class footwork and excellent head movement. Most often, he would circle left, backstepping and pivoting along the way. This would move him away from the opponent's lead hand, but it also moved him in the direction of an orthodox opponent's power side. While this would normally be a problem, Eubank's ability to backstep and pivot allowed him to roll away from big right hands. And when it came to offense, this footwork helped there too. He often jabbed as he circled, and while this pivoting jab didn't look as pretty as when Ali did it, it had a similar effect. Opponents, in an effort to avoid the lead hand, placed themselves directly in the firing line for Eubank's devastating right hand. Here, he pulls this off against his chief rival, Nigel Benn. And here, against Malinga. If the opponent really chased Eubank, he would retreat to a point and then stop short to make the opponent walk into his punches. This would amplify the impact, almost like the opponent accidentally walked into a wall. It was unexpected, and the result was crushing. And if the tactics we've discussed frustrated the opponent into simply rushing forward, Eubank punished them with intercepting counters. He used intercepting counters to the head and body to punish opponents that tried to step inside. He had excellent timing on these counters, often landing just as the opponent's foot stepped down. Eubank's cross was also fantastic for keeping opponents at bay, seen here against Sherry. Plus, he could dig uppercuts to the head and body, rattling teeth or ribs depending on the target he chose. And he could land with the rear uppercut or the lead, depending on the angle he had. With their offense stifled and their defenses under duress, the opponent would need to find a way to avoid Eubank's counters and cut off the ring. So instead of a fistfight, Chris Eubank gave them a puzzle. In short, they would have to play Eubank's game, technical boxing. And this is where the tables were turned. Instead of Eubank retreating and countering wild punches, the fight would be at a thinking man's pace. More importantly, the space that was between them, formerly a no man's land, now belonged to Eubanks, thanks to gaining respect with the strategies we've discussed already. He was free to stalk forward, draw out punches from his opponent, and create counter opportunities. He would dictate the terms. Once Eubank was feeling in control, you could see it by the way he slowed his movement, almost standing right in front of his opponent with a low guard. And while standing still in a boxing match is a good way to get hurt, there's a key detail that kept Eubank safe and allowed him to counter. He would align his head with his lead foot or knee. Not only did this make the opponent think that he was closer than he actually was, but it also afforded him the space to rock away while maintaining his own countering range. His most common pull counter was the jab, but he could also follow an opponent's retracting punch to land hooks and uppercuts. The movement didn't need to be big either, as he could sometimes avoid the power of his opponent's punch with just the turn of his chin. Another tactic Eubank used to find counterpunches was the false entry. Think of it like stopping short, but the directions are reversed. Instead of retreating, he's the one moving forward. And instead of following his expected momentum, he stops just shy of his opponent's range before leaping into the counter. The false entry also worked to dull his opponent's reflexes, because they weren't sure when Eubank was actually going to commit. Sometimes he would immediately leap forward, and other times, he would test the waters a couple of times before blitzing forward with leather. These blitzes were fast, ferocious, and extremely unpredictable, because he would also feint punches in the middle of these forward-moving combinations. So, if you're Eubank's opponents, you weren't sure which targets actually needed defending, even if you saw which punches were supposedly heading your way. Here, he simply flashes the lead before committing to the right. While he doesn't ultimately land in this clip, you can see what I'm talking about. Look at the way Eubank simply flashes the cross and jab before actually following through with the straight right. Eubank could also simply let loose with a plain old-fashioned 1-2. And here, Eubank combines the false entry with a blitz for a shattering right hand. And again, here he is twitching just out of range before leaping in to put Gary Stretch to the mat. While Eubank faced criticism over his finishing ability following the tragic events of the Michael Watson rematch, he was still plenty lethal through the end of his pro career. And if he caught you clean, simply the best would transform into simply a beast. Of course, no one is a perfect fighter, including Eubank. Every fighter finds adversity in the ring, whether they're hurt, tired, or often both. And given the choice to shrink or show courage, Eubank would choose the path of the warrior every time, throwing back even while rattled in an effort to gain respect. While this isn't usually a great idea, it actually played into Eubank's game. In his fights, he gained territorial control because he made his opponents respect his punching power. So, crowded and under fire, Eubank would bite down on his mouthpiece and throw back with full force. After all, Eubank needed his space back, and he just needed a single solid connection to get it. Once he stunned or backed off his foe with a punch, Eubank would find his exit and start to circle away to find the outside again. And then they were back to long-range fighting, with Eubank free to slow things down with an outside counter, or simply circle the perimeter to draw the opponent back into a boxing contest instead of a slugfest. Chris Eubank is a once-in-a-lifetime character in a sport full of once-in-a-lifetime characters, and not just for his public image. His incredible use of counterpunches, timing manipulation, and range management make him an interesting tape study for any fighter looking to tame aggressive opponents and control the ring. From the modern martial artist, we wish you happy training.